Yes, greetings to all the family. Dr. David Roots. The 7 esoteric meanings of dreadlocks. And I'm using the word dreadlock specifically because this video is directed towards people of African descent, people that have a natural kink or natural coil in the hair, so that when your hair grows, it naturally spirals into what we colloquially will call a dread or a lock. We say lock because you can't comb that out when you have proper dreads. You see sometimes people talking, I can see some people talking about you can pick out dreads or whatever, but if you have a proper dread or dreadlock, there's no way you're picking that out or teasing that out. If you wanted to remove it, you'd have to cut it off, okay? But it also, the video also loosely applies to people that have natural hair in general, because for people of all around the world, if you have natural hair, dreadlocks and locks in general have been present in all cultures, from east all the way to west, south all the way to north. But obviously people of African descent have a specific curl or kink, coil, spiral to their hair, and so that's where we're talking about the term dreadlocks. But this video is not about the structure of dreadlocks. This video is about the 7 esoteric meanings of dreadlocks. I'm sitting here in the sun, and that's very important. Sunbathing, real sunbathing, is very important to our skin and to our hair. My hair is most healthy. Right now I'm living in London. My hair is most healthy in a warm, tropical environment where I have access to nature's elements. And that includes the ocean, rivers, and the sun, and of course natural fruits and foods in general, okay? So keeping your hair healthy will be important for you to experience the full spectrum of these 7 esoteric benefits. Just having hair is not necessarily, everyone will experience these, but whether or not you're consciously aware of what you experience is another story. Hence why I've used the term esoteric. It's hidden. Esoteric means hidden. So some people may call it pseudo. Well, he who feels it knows it, as Bob Marley would say. So let's get right into it. Number 1, your dreads, your locks are an outward expression of your ancestors, of your tribe, of your DNA, okay? If you looked at my hair, it's very hard for my hair, especially in certain climates, to lock in the front. I have, more curly hair, and when I pull it back in the front, it gets straight. And then the back of my head is much more curly. But other people have different textures and grains of hair. So your hair is a direct connection to your ancestry, and your ancestry is a direct connection to your DNA. Okay? So your hair is esoterically can tell you who your tribe is, who your kin are, where you come from. And that's just the reality. If you have very, very 9 ether, kink, coily hair, but then you probably have less, different ethnic mixing in your long line of ancestry. And if you have very, very straightest hair, then you have probably more European ancestry. That's just reality. There's nothing racial about that. That's just reality. So your hair esoterically reflects your DNA. Number 2, and by the way, why is that important? Because your DNA is a reflection of who you are, okay? And so to have self-knowledge, you need to have an understanding and an overstanding of who you are. I can identify myself as an African from my ancestry, but also from the DNA, from the feelings. It's the expression, the metaphysical expression that just emanates from me, like out here lying in the sun and so on and so on. Number 2, your dreads represent your crown. And when we say crown, yes, like a king has a crown or a queen has a crown, but they also represent your crown chakra at the top of your head. And that's where your energy is going to be focused. If you're cultivating your energy from the bottom of your souls all the way up through your body, through the chakra system, which are the energy centers of your body, all the way up to your crown. Your hair sits at the very top of that. Okay, and so when you have your dreads are an expression of that crown chakra, and people that have dreads and lead their life in a specific way, they'll know that your crown, your hair, can activate during certain times. So your hair will actually stand up, okay, because that's that energy that's manifesting up through your chakras to the top of your head. Number 3, your dreads, your dreadlocks are like antennae, okay, literally. They're like receivers. So antennae receive. So people have antenna on a car or on a radio or on a TV. Your dreads are like antennae. They are receivers of energy. Okay, and energy has to be classified. What type of energy do we mean? We mean spiritual energy. We also mean physical energy as well. Okay, so obviously right now I'm sunbathing, and I'm out here in nature getting some sun, and that is electromagnetic energy. So your hair can receive that, and then obviously it will be able to convert that into other forms of energy like heat. Okay, also you have melanin in your hair and going out through your skin, so that's going to capture that energy as well and convert it into chemical energy like vitamin D, so on and so on. But when we're talking about antennae, we're talking about spiritual energy, because we're talking about the esoteric, okay? The esoteric meanings, okay, and significance of your hair, okay? It's a receiver of spiritual energy. And the more you are in tune with yourself, with your DNA, as we spoke about earlier, the more your antennae will be receptive to receive that energy. And obviously the better condition that your hair is in, and the more you're connected with your hair as well, the more you will be able to interpret the signals, okay, that are coming from your antennae. Okay. Number 4, your hair is not just antennae, but they're also transmitters. There's a lot of conversation about how hair can be antennae. People, that's something people have talked about frequently before, but not as much in regards to your hair being transmitters, okay? In particular, when your hair is moving. So you'll see a lot of people, a lot of the my Rasta community, the Native American community who also have long hair, the Maasai, when they want to transmit energy, they move their head and move their hair in a rhythmic fashion. Okay, so they might shake the locks out, or the Maasai move their heads up and down, making the sound with the beads on the hair, and that the ring on the body makes sounds, and that helps them to keep that rhythm. Okay, and that creates resonance, and then that resonance creates oscillation and vibration, and that creates energy that you can then transmit out from you. Okay, so your hair can act as not only receivers but also transmitters. That's why people who have natural hair and are into natural ways of living, they're very careful about what they put in the hair and around the hair and close to the hair, and who touches the hair as well. Okay. Number 5, your dreads and dreadlocks in particular. So we're not talking about fashion dreads, but even fashion dreads, anyone who has dreads, really this applies to be honest. The dreads represent sacrifice. Okay, what do we mean by that? Well, it represents sacrifice through separation, because esoterically we're talking about, but also physically, growing dreads requires sacrifice, it requires maintenance, it requires a separation from the norms of society that would like you to look a specific way. Okay, so when you grow dreads, you're actually separating yourself from the rest of the community who might cut their hair or perm their hair or do different things like that. So dreads represent sacrifice and separation, and they have since ancient times. There's people in the community that have grown their hair as part of a specific guild or sect or whatever. It's because they've separated themselves. So for the Rasta, they talk about the Nazarite vow. Okay, the Nazarite vow in Numbers in the Bible. Okay, the book of Numbers. The Nazarenes were those that separated themselves unto the Most High. And they did this in many different ways, by specifically not eating things, but also by not cutting the hair. And it said that Samson was a Nazarite. Okay, and hence why he had locks, and Delilah cut his locks, and there's that whole story there as well. And there are other people within the Bible that, through the hidden wisdom, they talk about being part of this separated people. But we still see that in modern Hindu society, as we said, in the Maasai society. When you get to a certain age, you grow your hair, and then when you get to an eldership, you cut your hair. In the Native American society, which is quite broad, and the First Nation peoples, many of them would grow their hair, and their hair was seen as sacred. Okay, so your hair, your dreads represent hair in general, but dreads and dreadlocks takes a lot of commitment, and especially depending on if you're living in a modern system, it takes a lot of sacrifice in order to maintain the health of your hair. Number 6, your dreads signify esoterically a warrior status. Okay, signify your warrior status. And when I say warrior, I don't necessarily mean just physically fighting, although in some communities, as we said, historically that's what it represents. The Rastafari, for example, are well known for adopting the practices, it's said, of the Kenyan Mau Mau, who grew their hair while they were at war with the colonial British, the colonial forces. The warriors and warrioresses of Ethiopia were known to not cut their hair when they were at times of war, and it's said that modern day Rasta people also follow this tradition, because we are at war with Babylon, aka the modern society, the colonial society that operates behind the hidden curtain. Okay, but what we're talking about is not just physical warrior status, we're talking about on a spiritual plane. And I would hazard to guess that most people that have dreads, even if they're only growing them for fashion, are spiritual people. All people generally are spiritual people. Everyone, every human, because we come from spirit. We're animated by spirit, okay? But in particular, those people that grow their locks, they probably, if you ask them what's their religion, so on and so on, they probably say, well, I'm a spiritual person. So we're talking about being a warrior on a spiritual plane. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, a plane is a dimension. It's when we talk about planes in physics or in carpentry, we're talking about a specific singular dimension, whether it's in the vertical plane, horizontal, diagonal, whether it's time, space. Okay, so the spiritual plane is the dimension of the spirit. And there is, to use biblical texts to deliver the message, there is warfare occurring in high and low places spiritually. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. If you are in tune with that sort of message, then you will understand what I'm saying. You will understand what I'm saying. But your dreads signify your warrior status on a spiritual plane. Okay, that's why even those that you have the light and the dark side, they both knew the importance of long hair, natural hair and dreads. Okay, and because your dreads can act as both transmitters and receivers of energy, then it's important that you understand that power and that they understood that power as spiritual warriors. Okay, finally, number 7, your dreads are storage vessels. The storage vessels of memory. Okay, so for many people, if they have dreadlocks and they go to a funeral, for example, after they go to that funeral, they'll cut the hair. Okay, that was part of, for example, the Nazarene vow, that you would not go across, you wouldn't come into contact with dead bodies and dead things. Okay, but if you had to, let's say it was a close relative or you had to do a specific thing, then you would cut your hair after that. Okay, you can identify people from their hair. That means that hair contains DNA, and if your hair contains DNA, that means that that DNA can record certain events as you, and as well as the chemical. You can look at, for example, chemical testing of hair, which can tell, pathologists or doctors or about what your history is, whether you did drugs or what you were eating, and so on and so on. Your hair is an expression, just like the rings on a tree and the bark on a tree. Your hair is an expression of your environment, but not just your physical environment, but also your mental and spiritual environment. So your hair is storage vessels of memory. And so that can be both something that's negative, but also something that's positive, because then if you know that you can activate your DNA in that hair, and your DNA is an ancient record. It's a spiral staircase, geometrical, mathematical record. Okay, that can be activated. And when I talked about earlier through the sun, for example, and that spiral becoming resonant, you can then activate those memories. So people that have dreads and people that are in tune with what their dreads mean, you will have different experiences where you feel more connected to nature. You feel a part of something larger. And obviously this can happen for people in different ways and so on. I'm just talking from my own experience, as I said. Who feels it knows it in regards to this. I'm talking about the 7 esoteric meanings of dreadlocks. My name is Dr. David Roots. Esoteric meaning hidden. If this is your experience and you agree, share the wisdom that you may have with others in the comments. You may disagree, but again, you know your tribe and you know the type of people that you resonate with. So for those who amongst us who have dreads or considering on growing their dreads, know that it is a specific walk that requires sacrifice at time, especially if you're living in what we may call the Babylon system, meaning in a modern society that does not really cater to the optimum ways of living. And that includes temperature, access to natural resources, things like that. I will do some more videos on how to take care of your hair, and that's for whether or not you have natural, well, it's for if you have natural hair, but to take care of your hair and the specifics behind that. But I wanted this video to focus on the esoteric meaning of your dreadlocks, and to encourage all of us out here who who understand those esoteric meanings to amplify that energy, because it's needed more now than ever before. For our spiritual warriors out there, Dr. David Roots, give thanks.